The ModernJeeper Show, the show about Jeeps, Jeeping, and Jeepers.
Well, hey, Modern Jeepers, is another episode of the ModernJeeper Show with me, Matt from Metalcloak, and Mr. Modern Jeeper, Corey Osborne.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, and Rockstar Chief Girl, Jesse.
Hey, how's it going?
I am good. I'm good. You know, I called you about this just the other day, but damn, your Jeep looks good with that new grill.
Doesn't it?
Who did that for you?
It looks amazing.
Who did that
You know,
for you?
it's funny when I was helping her put a coat of clear over it and take the other one off and whatnot, and we put it on there, and even up close, it was kind of like, yeah, you know, it looks kind of cool. But it's amazing to me when you step away from it and you look at the difference that it made something so simple. I mean, her other grill was very similar, but it was just purple.
Mhm.
This thing changes the look of the whole Jeep so much. It's very dramatic.
Yeah.
I called it being an adult now. It's like it went from this fun purple front grille to now it's got this awesome design and this awesome look, and that's like it's so adult, but it looks awesome.
It does.
It makes the Jeep look it's weird. It makes it look taller. It lifted the whole thing up and it makes it look a lot brighter. And of course, Matt, that's all hand painted. Like,
Yeah, plug in this guy. Who is this guy?
Matt Spivogel. I met him, maybe 3 years ago online, and he started out doing gas caps, hand painting gas caps.
I'd be a little
And I
concerned when you
wanted
start
one.
saying I met this guy online. He's
I
sort of
met
gas
this guy
caps.
online, and he was a painter,
He's a painter.
an artist.
And I had him do some work, and he got pretty into it and got into the off-road industry and does his own painting. It's Grills.
Wow.
Skillz Grills is his name. And
What is it?
Spills Grills.
Spills Grills. Nice.
Matt Spivogel. He lives in Altoona. Yeah.
Where's
He
Altoona?
does a lot of art in Pennsylvania.
Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I've never been there. Altoona.
I think we
Whenever
passed around it.
I hear Altoona, and I just think of Billy Joel songs or something.
Yeah.
You can't tune a piano, but you can tune a fish.
Yeah. Tuna fish.
Oh, great! This will be one of those mornings because everybody is bright and early out here. It's
Yeah.
it's nice. It's cold, 30 degrees in Colorado, where Corey and Jesse are hanging out, and it's 40 something outside here at Metalcloak on an early Wednesday morning.
There's lots of snow.
Oh, you guys got snow.
Yeah, snow in the high country. So again, it's kind of interesting to me that in this day and age, we have to have lots of social media posts by I don't know, the San Juan Trail group and lots of social media groups have to tell people stop going to high altitudes. There's a lot of snow, and you know what that does is it makes people want to go into high altitudes and see all the snow. But there's people like going off the road, and people are just, I don't know, we've lost our minds, and it's pretty serious. I mean, the high country in Colorado is now officially closed, at least in the San Juan Mountains. Don't go up there. Don't go get yourself stuck so that somebody else has to go up there and get you. It's
not any fun for anybody.
it'll still be there in the spring of next year.
Yeah.
But Ford says I can go in my Bronco and it's okay.
Right.
I called Ford.
I've seen the commercials.
Ford Daddy.
Subliminal messaging. Yeah.
Ford Daddy said I can go.
That's right.
That's right.
Don't do it, people. Don't do
Ford
it.
said,
Don't do it.
so did Kia Daddy. Kia Daddy said I could go. That commercial said so. It's
That's
like
right.
the Toyota, those Toyota commercials they do where they went, because Toyota years ago, Toyota got sued. And the basic story is that somebody was out running their Toyota truck like a Baja Racer. And because they do the TRD trucks and the Tacomas, right? And it like destroyed the truck, and then they wouldn't cover the warranty on it, whatever. So they sued because basically misleading advertising, because the advertising showed this stock truck running out there. And I think for Twitter's response for that over time was to do these incredibly insane commercials, right? Where the truck goes off the cliff and goes tumbling down to the bottom and gets to the bottom and the smoke clears and it drives off, right? Like, okay, fine. We're going to go the absolute opposite. We're going to go absolutely insane with this stuff. But then you start wondering, was there somebody who watched that and said, yeah, I can try that. I didn't see the disclaimer.
Yeah,
just because you're doing it doesn't mean everybody should be doing it.
Right? It's like eating Tide Pods. I like
that. But they're so colorful. They are so
pretty.
We need to protect ourselves from ourselves. But it really is a fault of Tide, because they could have just made them ugly and gray, but they had to make them colorful.
Right. And then it just makes, the mouth breathers want to eat them.
I would have bought them if they were ugly and gray, right?
Oh my goodness.
Mouth breathers. Yo, speaking of social media, we were talking about this a little briefly beforehand, but we were talking about gaming, because one of the ways for our audience that I'm recording this right now is I'm recording this on the PC, and I'm actually using the gaming recording function of the PC. And even though at home I'm all Mac, at the office we're all PC, so I'm using that Windows 10 feature. It's a Start Menu G, and it comes up and it's easy to record. It actually creates a much smaller file size, because when I was doing it before on our laptop, it was using the Apple screen capture function, and it was creating like a 4K recording of it, which was like some awful gigs. I mean, it had this like 10 gig file for 1 hour show.
Huge files.
Yeah, it was insane. This creates a totally functional file. It does perfectly for what we need to do. Which is basically just post us, because you guys want to see our cute mugs here on YouTube. But we're talking about that. We're talking about like how that started, and that so many people want to do gaming. But we were talking about Mr. Beast. Now, Mr. Beast, which he's just a character in himself. He's one of the most followed YouTubers, one of the most followed Twitchers, most followed now TikTokers. And he got his start in Twitch, like doing stuff specifically on gaming. He was a gamer, and he started creating games that other people would be involved in. Things like, I remember one of the ones I watched once was where he gave $100,000 to the last person who had his finger on this little app that they had, right? And that was it. And people were following it, and he was sharing them, and they were getting big Twitter followings, but you had to keep your finger on it. And I think it was, I don't know how many hours it went, but ultimately one guy won $100,000. Huge following for him. He did this one thing where he bought 1 million lottery tickets, scratched them all off, and won 700,000. Then he took that 700,000 and bought an island and decided to give the island away. So he does these big ideas, big audacious goals, right? And of course, he has Mr. Beast Burger now, which I think we talked about on the show. Well, just recently, he decided to do this thing on TikTok. He decided to post up a post and said he will recreate Squid Games if he gets 10 million likes on this post on TikTok. He's at like 13 million now in like 48 hours, 72 hours, something like that. Something ridiculously crazy. He broke all records. But now he's got to recreate Squid Games. So, yeah, we were talking about that. And of course, Corey doesn't know what Squid Games is.
Nope.
Jesse does. But Squid Games is an interesting phenomenon. It is a Korean show, South Korean developed, produced show, based on a game that the South Korean kids do called Squid Game, which is it's like a squid in the ground, kind of like hopscotch and other stuff that we've done, but a different version where you drew a squid on the ground and the kids had to go around. It was a little more aggressive game. So they create this thing called Squid Game. Now, Squid Game is a very dystopian type of idea of a bunch of people who are desperate for money, agree that they have a chance to win money. They all show up. And I'm not going to do any spoilers here, but I'm sure people have seen it, and it's all around social media. But they show up to play this game, and it's 6 kids' games they have to play. The short of it is, if you fail at the game, it's lethal.
Oh.
If you don't, so they get purged, and the final winners share in the pot. There's not going to be one winner, but whoever's left after the 6th game to share in the pot, and the pot just grows and grows. And it's billions of South Korean, and I forget the currency name for South Korean, but it is billions of won. Maybe it's won. I'm not sure. That is like maybe hundreds of millions of dollars. So it is life changing. And the but that's the essence of the show. So the first episode, the very first one, to get at that and start doing all this stuff, and it's really good character development. Of course, I'm watching it in English. Now, it was a game changer in the whole world of Netflix because it got released in something like 30 or 40 countries simultaneously. So what they did was they took this, they created it, and then they took the time before releasing it to have actors dub local languages, all over the world, and they released it in all these at the same time. So suddenly around the world, this thing, instead of organically growing like most shows do, and going from just like, we're starting here in the US and then it's going to be distributed to other countries, it got released around the world at the same time. So it became a worldwide phenomenon immediately.
Oh, wow.
And so now, and it's actually influencing others looking at like their own social media accounts, like trying to release videos in multiple languages at once. Like really people are embracing this. But it is a good show, good character development. Definitely has it's kind of funny when you're watching, because there's I've been to South Korea a few times. There is a certain speech pattern that occurs, and it's just part of polite and how they communicate and what they're talking about. Sometimes you watch these kids cartoons, for instance, that are done in South Korea. A lot of them are done in South Korea, and that are on Netflix. There's a lot of that production, and the words and the speech patterns and how they do things is just kind of it's interesting. It's like example of saying, yeah, of course you will. It's like, of course I will do that, my favorite friend. Gotcha. That kind of thing, right? Gotcha. And so you get that kind of dub in. Sometimes the language is perfect, it seems great. Other times it
doesn't match up.
Sometimes you're going, that really seems like a stupid thing to say.
That's awkward. Yeah.
It's awkward. But it's fine. It's just a fun thing. So check it out. It's on Netflix, Squid Games. I'm only like 5 episodes in, and there's intrigue going on behind the scenes too, and different people, and you get irritating characters, of course. They come and then the stupid air characters, and then of course your little heroes and things pop in. But
I think it's interesting. I think that we're remember, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, 15, 20 years ago, when computers were evolving and the rate of newness, the development of silicon chips and processing speeds was doubling, every few months, literally. And I feel like we've now that has all slowed down, and as society, we've started to now look at this whole the rise of NFTs and digital purchasing and cryptocurrencies. So now all of these high processing power machines that are doing all this work. I was just reading an article on NFTs the other day, and it talked about how much energy is being consumed for GIFs. We've all shared GIFs. These are now things that can be bought and be monetized, but that little GIF doing its little thing on your computer takes processing power. And we've kind of, it's just some cute little thing, but when you think about worldwide of all of these little animations or all of these little things that are taking place, you're talking about blockchains and cryptocurrencies, and it's amazing now. These computers are just sitting there computing, using energy, huge amounts of energy, and there's people now getting away. Well, there's some folks who believe that cryptocurrency and NFTs and all that has got to change. It's got to evolve because it's using far more energy and processing power and all of that in a negative way. We got to be more green. And they're saying that no, because of all of that electronic data transfer and processing power, we're creating more greenhouse gases. And if you think about that, well, how did we get here? Wow. We're recording a podcast being 1,200 miles apart. And you know what? Our Jeeps, I guess this is a show about Jeeps, and we'll get there too. But it's amazing. And you think about our new Jeeps, the JLs and the JTs, and how many microprocessors, how many chips, sales of cars are decreasing because of this Chips are hard to come by right now, so the manufacturers are having to slow down productions because they can't get a hold of chips to put in these computers that are in our cars. Yet, where's our push toward electrification of the entire auto industry?
Well, I saw there's an interesting meme going around showing an oil pipeline going through a valley, and it's green and beautiful. There's a pipeline going through, and it's all green and beautiful and stuff. And the next picture is showing a pit where they dig lithium for the batteries, right? And it's just a big giant pit. So there's a definite pushback right now, and what does that ultimately mean? I don't know. Is it better for us to have these battery powered cars? Well, lithium takes mining. Until somebody invents a better battery, lithium comes out of the ground, takes strip mining to get it out there in efficient ways. All the energy in the production. Now, at least, to Tesla's point, they build these gigafactories. They're trying to make these gigafactories as self-sustaining as possible with having wind power, solar power, because they own the solar, and then having their own battery banks. Like they put their Tesla batteries outside and try to have enough battery backup within that they don't use off the grid. But every piece of machinery in there, everything that's done to develop that. So what is the net gain, right? You talk about when we talk about greenhouse, we talk about the credits that they have, right? If somebody is what's the net gain that Tesla has given the world in the development of this, other than the fact that proving it's possible, which now you have your Rivian, which, side note, by the way, as we're speaking this, I believe William Shatner is heading up in Blue Origin rocket. And I thought it was funny this morning that Jeff Bezos drove the crew out to the Blue Origin rocket in a Rivian truck. I thought that was just perfect. Nothing else. I'm going to drive a Rivian truck to just say to Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Which will be interesting to see William Shatner in space. What a thing. But yeah, it is the amount of production, the amount of cost, even on when it comes to mining, right? You get a single machine, like if you're just doing Bitcoin, a single machine might net you $50 a month. A single board. That's why somebody was doing this talk. This is what I was heard from him. Single board might produce $50 a month. So what do? Well, hey, if you're doing that, you might as well do 100 of them. Because now you got that much more, right? So they have $5,000 a month coming for the 100, but they'll all produce. So then you hope that you have some sort of sustainable electricity to manage it. All that stuff had to be equipped and created. So the infrastructure to exist and the giant server rooms, and I mean, just think about the buildings out there across the country, for instance, that are giant server rooms, just to be able to serve us and be able to allow us to do this right now. With, I don't know where Dialpad or Uber Conference is located where we're recording this, but they're probably on AWS, which is the Amazon, which is on some server room, someplace, somehow with redundancy. I mean, it's crazy. All of that has to be created. All of that has to be built. All of that has to be manufactured. So old school manufacturing to be able to go into, I mean, it is. You start thinking about that. What is the actual value versus, you know what? But let's jump back again. Let's go back to the turn of the century between 18th and 1800s and 1900s. I wonder if the same thought process was there when it's like, okay, now we have oil. We're turning into gasoline. Now we got to build these stations across the country. And what is the actual value? Do I actually get value out of putting all the oil into a train that has to go across the country and has to be built and produced, and the steam and the locomotive and all that kind of stuff and the manpower to get it there?
It's as visionaries developed the mining roads and these paths in the Colorado mountains. We talked a lot about this on the ModernJeeper adventure in the San Juans. We had a guy who decided that roads and toll roads, auto mirrors, was the way for Jeeps and for mining and ore to get from one place to another. And it was interesting because at the same time he was building toll roads, he was also the one who was working on the railways, bringing railroads in. So he kind of shot himself in the foot, because once he made railroads into some of these areas, then the toll roads became less important. But again, it's the evolution, right? And I don't know. I'm thinking about Death Valley because we're getting ready for our Death Valley first fall trip, and the little town of Darwin out there, where a lot of people have gone to get away from everything else. There are mines that would have been defunct for many years are now reopening because they're able to strip out some other ores to make batteries. Um, and I don't know that the people are that excited about that. They're going, oh, great. The mine's going to reopen. Well, some people think that that kind of growth is healthy and positive, but a lot of people, they stayed there after the mines closed specifically to get away from all that development. And now that development's going to come back. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Technology, we've talked about this over the course of the last few years of the Modern Jeeper podcast. And sometimes technology does good things, and sometimes I think we're going a little bit the other direction. I mean, heavens, I don't know, I spent the last month kind of messing around with the Gladiator, and the start stop battery, of course, it's a 3.6, so it's got the two batteries. It's got a big battery up top. It's actually a Group 94, which is a fairly large battery up top, and this little auxiliary looks like an ATV battery, the stop start battery that's underneath it. And it's been dead a couple of times. So since we're gone a lot, the Gladiator will sit in the garage. Even with some small parasitic draw, you go out and you start it, and it won't start. So a couple things. Jeep doesn't really do a good job of telling you how to jump start those dual batteries. And I will tell you that you can jump start it from the top. You have to go to the main fuse panel, the big fuses with the posts on it. And if you hook a jump box to the first terminal, they call it N1, and the negative, so a positive to the N1 and negative to the big battery up top, you can jump start it. But I got this bright idea, and our friends at Full Throttle, we saw them at a show in Pigeon Forge, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to replace both those batteries. It's 2 years old. It's probably not due. By the way, the Jeep's under warranty, and I could take it to the service center here in Montrose, and it becomes very inconvenient to take your vehicle in, drop it off, have them diagnose it, decide whether or not they want to actually fix it, or if they're going to fix it under warranty. And then they're going to do the same thing. They're going to end up replacing the batteries. So Pigeon Forge, I met David and talked to him about a replacement option. The battery that Full Throttle makes does not fit the little auxiliary battery box in the 3.6. So that was out. So I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to buy that big Group 94 battery, and I'm going to replace that top battery. Came home. It's not that hard of a job to replace the top battery at all. And in fact, with Metalcloak's fender and inner fender well, even the bottom battery, the stop start battery, is very easy to access. You take the inner fender well off, you drop the box down, it's right there. It's no big deal.
Nice.
So I replaced the top battery, the big one, the Group 94 battery, and I left the stop start battery inside. Everything seemed to be fine. And then like 3 days after that, I get stop start system needs service, and nothing's you can't use the stop start function. I'd go to check voltages, and everything seemed in line. I mean, so the battery voltages will read 12.7. What's interesting about the Gladiator and the JL, the alternator, it only provides power when the batteries sense that they need it. So basically, there's a regulator there that says only send current when things get depleted. Well, we're so used to seeing when something's running, you can typically stick a voltmeter on your battery when the engine's running and see 14.1, 14.3 volts, something like that. This would read 12.6, 12.7. More reading, more research. Everything seemed to be fine. It was starting and running totally fine, except for all these error messages on the dash. Couldn't figure it out. Charged each battery individually, separately, disconnected the two from each other, hooked it back up, waited about 5 minutes, hooked it back up. Still didn't seem to fix anything. It was just bugging me. And I kept thinking, well, it's because I replaced the top battery and I didn't replace the bottom battery. So I should probably just take it to Jeep, have them replace that bottom battery. But I'm like, it's working. I don't know that I was ready to do that. So more reading. Turns out I took the terminals off the top battery, separated the stop-start battery from the terminal. There's two large, 0 gauge wires that go to this top battery from the bottom battery. Separated those off and waited an hour. Hooked everything back up. Everything's fine. No error messages. The voltage, when I turn it on now, I can see 14 volts and it slowly comes down. Again,
so you should have called the help. You should have called the Jeep Help Center in India, where they would have told you, "Sir, please take it off and take the battery cables off and count to 100, and then go put it back together."
Right.
Did you try to restart your computer and count to 30?
And now there's a whole, I found many forums and threads about people going, how do we get rid of this? How do we disable this start battery? How can we just go back to one battery? How can I spend some more of my money, my hard-earned money, so that I can put a real dual battery setup in here, like from Odyssey or something like that, $500-$600 later? Why are we having to fix things that shouldn't have never needed to be fixed? And then we're having to struggle with solutions because, well, again, we shouldn't be having to mess with it anyway, because really Jeep just wants us to take those vehicles back to the dealership. They can troubleshoot, diagnose it. It doesn't matter that we may be, I've heard of folks having their Jeeps in the shops for months. And yeah, well, we'll figure it out. That's not okay. But it's kind of like, remember Windows 95? And you just restarted it every day, no matter what. That's just what you did. And we got used to that. I never
turned it off.
Right.
We never, because those power box, the power plant actually in a PC is expensive. You just never turn it off.
Absolutely.
Because they'll burn out.
Yeah, we're just becoming more used to things not maybe, and
well, again, so think about that. So think about the fact, this is what blows my mind, because we're buying these vehicles, they're manufactured, right? And we have these kind of little problems. I for instance, I have to do a very high end steering stabilizer on my JT. And most people don't. But for whatever reason, there's something in my JT that if I don't do that, I end up having death wobble. Throwing in the bigger tires and stuff like that. So ultimately it's like, fine, I'll use the Fox ATS. It handles it. I'm okay. Right. But no matter what we do, try to figure it out. There's something in there. And it's not anybody else's rig, and other people's rigs are set up certain ways, right? We have 40-inch tires on aftermarket axles and stuff like that, and it's totally fine. You don't need, but on mine, we do. And then I'm watching right now, because I have actually William Shatner and Jeff Bezos talking, because he made it up and he made it down, and I'm not listening to it, so it must be fascinating conversation with William Shatner sitting there talking to Jeff about being in space, right? So I'll have to look at it later. But it's cute. They get little pins because they're not actually astronauts, because the FAA said no, you're not going to be astronauts, but they get little pins. Jeff Bezos is putting a pin on it. How nice is it? But think about that. Think about the problems we have with our vehicles, and then you have this spacecraft, right? Reusable spacecraft going up, coming down, and every time one of these things launch, I go, I get the pucker factor, like.
Right.
Because all it takes is one of them going up, and then everything stops, and all of a sudden the government comes in and says no more, right? And
right.
So you have, and then, but they're doing also, and they can't have those little problems. They can't have the little death wobbles. They can't have the weld being off a little bit. They can't have, there's something wrong with the battery. Just got to figure it out. They can't have that.
No,
Mm-mm.
no.
It's a different world, right? And yet
Well, and
we're in our
it's
Jeeps thinking,
it it's that whole if you wanted to have it be perfect, it's just going to cost more. Well, really? Because I don't believe that. I mean, we've had vehicles that have lasted a very, very long time that cost much less. But now things are extremely expensive and we're getting maybe less for our dollar. I don't know. Um,
well,
I,
every once in a while you go to like Taco Bell and you get a burrito supreme, and it's like, it's, remember, it's actually a good burrito supreme. Every time, other times you go and it's smaller than a bean burrito, right? You
right.
just, it's
Yeah.
whatever day, week, month, year the person is, and to some degree that's true. I mean, even though all this stuff is automated, a lot of the manufacturing process happens is get somebody else on a bad day. And I understand that. Here we get that, and we have some challenges. We have challenges we run into every day. We do the best we can with the crew we have, and we inspire them to do as the best they can, hopefully. And but there are times you might get somebody that maybe he forgets it. He was going through his huge stack of 75 things he had to weld today, and one of them didn't get all the weld. Okay, it happens. But I'm pretty confident that in very, very rare cases, there anything on our rigs that's going to cause anybody to have, a fatal moment.
Right.
Knock on wood, right?
Right.
But you're talking about your vehicle. You're spending money on a vehicle. You're getting it. It's kind of weird. You can go down this whole world of, well, there's a reason why there's a service industry infrastructure around vehicles, right?
Very true.
But in my mind, maybe it's electronics, maybe it's just the technology we're dealing with. There just seems to be a lot more recalls every year.
Well, and I think we have become, as Jeepers, we want to diagnose and know why things work maybe more than the average car owner that is using their vehicle to get to and from their job, and they really don't have the time. They don't want to know why it works. They just want it to work. And I think as Jeepers, we start to troubleshoot more and more. I've always been a fairly mechanical guy. The electrical side of things starts to fade off. You start to glaze over and go, what? We were in Moab last week for my birthday and had a group come over, and it was interesting. When Jesse, we talked about this last week in the podcast. I had one of my big light bar on the LJ. It was pouring down rain. It was miserable outside, but it was on. I was getting ready to go up into Hell's Revenge, and the light bar just turned off. I thought, well, that's weird. Looked at the switch. Switch was on. Still had power to the switch. So what do? We start troubleshooting. We go to the fuse box, and it's on a relay, and it melted a 30 amp fuse. Melted it, and like
Wow.
I've never seen a fuse actually melt and fail in the terminal. Took it apart. A buddy that we were with, thank goodness, not very many people have. We all have little circuit testers, and he actually had an AC and DC meter that would read amps. So it has the little clip bars on the end of it that would read DC amperage, and we replaced the fuse, put that meter on the wire, and it was pulling 34 amps. That's that's crazy amount of power, and everything else was fine. So again, if I wouldn't have, I would have probably thrown another fuse in there and gone, okay, ran it and melted another one, and I don't know what's.
We had a weird case with the Gladiator where a customer swore up and down that the amount of amperage, I don't remember the numbers were, the amount of amperage coming out of our two little lights that goes into the back that actually shines on your license plate, right? Just on the rear bumper, was just ridiculous. I mean, we're looking at those numbers going, no way, that's craziness, right? Like and he had his stock ones in there and he put that. Now, to this day, we have no idea why. Ultimately, he replaced them and put different ones in or whatever, and it seemed to be okay. But we literally went and installed them on another rig, went and checked it, did all that kind of stuff. Could not duplicate it. but it was just this weird moment. Like his battery basically was being drained out by the little lights in the back. It was just crazy. It was crazy. And I haven't talked to him recently to find out how it all worked out, but it seems to be fine now. Like sent him a new set, and it could have just been that particular little LED. But these are just little, like, there's little LEDs, nothing big about them. Why all of a sudden would have a little circuit? But again, there's a circuit board that's built in there, and maybe there was something in the circuit board that was crossed over, and that thing was now pulling, 15 amps instead of just a couple little bit, little
right.
bit.
I mean, for an LED light, that's why this whole conversion was so for so long. People went to LEDs is because it's much less draw, and this is I'll be upfront. This is a high dollar Baja Designs light bar that should pull about 20 amps. That's why it's got a 30 amp fuse in there. It shouldn't pull more than 20. And, dealing with Baja, those guys are great. Like, he's like, yeah, you have to send that back. I went through all the connections. Everything seems to be fine. And, it had to go back. By the way, shipping a 50-inch light bar with some insurance on it was $200 for me to ship it back.
The cost of shipping, and who did you use, UPS or FedEx?
I think it went UPS, actually. And the first time he ran it, it was like $202. And I'm like, I'm not going to pay you $202 because they had to put it in a box. I didn't have the original box, and then add insurance on it. It was going to be like $260. So he found a shipper for like $140 or $145, plus the box, plus insurance was $200.
See, this is what's crazy, because we started offering free shipping a year or two ago, a couple years ago now. Wow. And for a couple of reasons, but we decided let's go ahead and do it. So we started doing it. The cost of shipping right now is incredible. And not only are they consistently raising the fees, and we have negotiated rates, of course, but it's the surcharges. Like the surcharge on an adventure rack system, because some of the boxes are oversized, especially the long spreader bars, are huge. Somewhere between $60 to $100 per box surcharges. Right? This isn't just like your flat fee. Like, we're going to add you a surcharge. Part of it is their labor cost is going up. I mean, the inflationary pressure is everywhere. Their labor cost is going up. They have to pay a lot more to try to get people to work for them because nobody wants to do the job. And it's hard work, right? It's hard work working for a place like FedEx or UPS. Your constant labor. If you work inside of my nephew worked for the one out here in Sacramento for a short period of time, very short, because it was 8 hours a day of moving heavy boxes.
That's right.
For what, $18 an hour. There's nothing wrong with that, and there's a lot of pride in that kind of work, but that's the challenge you're facing. So the costs are just going up significantly. Fuel costs are going up. Everything's going up. Just trying to overnight something. One of our guys, Chris, said he had to overnight some paperwork back to Tennessee, and it was $100 to overnight paperwork. Right?
They
and they should be
going up 40%.
They should be like $20-$30, right?
Yeah.
And even then, they're not guaranteeing anything. They have so much disruption in their supply line. If anybody calls us and actually wants something overnighted, we can't guarantee it.
Right.
We will do our best, and we fight hard, especially if it's a customer service issue, but we can't guarantee that it won't get messed up somewhere in the chain.
It's the Amazon Prime, get it in 2 days, and all of that is gone now. I just read an article yesterday about how our government and the industry that handles all of these pipeline issues and supply line issues, they're all now gonna work extremely hard to remove those bottlenecks. So they all of a sudden now they're going to work hard. I think they've been trying to get it eliminated, but nobody wants to go to work, so it's hard to find the people to actually go do the job. So again, but now they're going to focus on that to help us. So because we can't get the stuff we want from Walmart and Target, and Jesse was just reading an article about Target. They commissioned their own fleet of ships to eliminate the bottleneck.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, that's what you got to do. So here in California, Target's dealing with a different issue. They just signed a law that requires toy aisles to be gender neutral.
The things we
Now,
worry about.
Target out here, I don't know what happened else, but Target, I know after Toys R Us closed, Target went like full bore, right? Like you know, they went fine. Toys R Us closed. We're going to be like Toy Central. So you know, they aisle after aisle after aisle. Here's your Lego aisle. Here's your Paw Patrol aisle. Here's your whatever. It's just aisle after aisle of toys. And now they have to like make them gender neutral. My argument is, who's to say that Transformers isn't already gender neutral?
Right.
Legos is gender neutral. Transformers is gender neutral. How are you gonna make it gender neutral? Because my son likes pink, so get over it.
Right.
I used to play with trucks. That's all I did.
Exactly.
I wasn't worried about gender neutral crap.
But I thought gender was a fluidity thing. So how can you actually make something gender neutral if gender doesn't actually exist?
Right. It doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't exist.
Well, so
but awesome to Target to do that. How amazing! I mean, go out there and solve your problems. Don't depend on the government. We have a philosophy here at Metalcloak. If we're getting to a capacity point at 70%, if we hit a point where something is operating at 70% capacity, it's time to expand. It's time to fix. It's time to either find better efficiencies or to grow. Our government seems to always operate and respond at 120%, 150%. Oh, the world's falling apart. We're 150% capacity. Maybe we should start looking at that. We'll commission a study, right? As everything else. Target's going, screw that. Like, we understand our game. We understand the world's happening. We're going to go solve it. Amazon did the same thing. I mean, can you imagine what things would be like right now had Amazon not developed their own delivery system? Brought in their own planes, and not brought in all this stuff and built an infrastructure that allowed them to.
Interestingly, how long ago they started to implement a lot of that, kind of like the writing was on the wall. I mean, and you're exactly right. I think as Jeepers and as people, I don't know, there's so many systems in place that seem to want to limit us, confuse us. It seems like it's always a hurdle, and I don't feel like it's always been that case. But I was reading an article this morning about OHVs, and it's still an issue in Moab, and it's still an issue in Silverton. The county commissioners actually just had a vote in Silverton to eliminate OHVs from downtown. There were two measures on the ballot, and the first measure said something to the effect of, do you want OHVs to be allowed in town? And it was overwhelming no, and versus the yes vote. The second measure was, do you want to keep the same issues the way they are, or do you want to keep the OHV issue the way it is? Well, it's interesting because that issue also said, no, we don't want OHVs in town. But at the very bottom of the ballot, it had some language that said, if there's more no votes than yes votes, then we're going to go with the status quo and keep things the same and the way they are. And so people that had voted to basically the way it was worded, it looks like OHVs were not going to be allowed in town. The town council said, no, you guys voted, you didn't want that to happen, so we're keeping things the same.
So they created this double entendre within the
yes,
and they've done that before. A lot of times there's competing initiatives, right? I don't know in this town if they did it all themselves,
right.
But you get 1 and 1, and then what's the actual battle, right? What's the actual fight?
Right. There was actually also a recall vote of the mayor who, do you wish to recall the mayor? And yes was overwhelming, and they say, well, that's not going to go they're not going to recall the mayor because the entire thing was under this whole, we're going to remain with the status quo, as if there's a whole bunch of yes votes. Wow. And literally it's creating a big mess, and the OHV proponents are saying thank you, Silverton, for letting us keep the things the way they are. And then there's the people who are voting going, no, that's not what we said. Wow.
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
God. I had to figure out what the heck that was yesterday. I'm like, what is this crap?
Oh, I know, isn't that awesome? But it's kind of that thing. It's like let's man. And this, we're down this path now where literally you get this idea that elected officials, no matter where they are, and there's actually studies to support this. Elected officials and the agendas they push have absolutely nothing to do with the people they serve.
No, that's
like
that's
there's like 30%, like less than 30% of the work done in Washington actually responds to anything related to what the people want and constituents. I mean, whole idea of all that is just like it's gone.
Well, it's no different than Metalcloak, than Stellantis. The government's a business, and they're going to run it like a business. And the fact that people have some influence there, it's really not. I mean, they're going to continue to make a product that people want and keep people support, but they're not going to really listen to all of it, right? They're just going to segregate and separate what they want to hear and the changes they want to make, because it's got to be a profitable thing. Now, our government, they just keep taking money from us, but we're not going to talk politics.
No, we're not going to talk about the fact that our Federal Reserve is still printing $100 billion a month.
Right. Yeah.
Just printing it. I'm looking forward to the $1 trillion coin, though, but we're not going to talk politics. It's economics.
We have a bunch of stuff coming up. We're getting ready to head towards Hump and Bump, which is the week before SEMA. I was just thinking about this. Since SEMA last year didn't happen, we missed the Gladiator, because remember when the Camaro got released and we went to SEMA and it was every Camaro you can imagine modified and aftermarket parts for it. Without having SEMA last year, we kind of missed the whole Gladiator movement, I guess. So I'm curious.
You got a little bit of the year before with the
a little bit
in the very beginning, when everybody was overlanded, like nobody else had done anything special. It was just like,
right.
Oh, cool. What do you have in the back of your truck?
Do we have on this one today?
Yeah. So that will be interesting to see. But then there's that whole skip. Like, is it just going to be all Bronco Nation out there?
Maybe so. I mean, there's a few obviously out there.
JT Bro Trucks.
Yeah, JT Bro Truck will be out there, I'm guessing, and
I've seen it. It's interesting.
It's going to be interesting. I did some stuff, or I was looking at Stellantis' website, Jeep's website, and what their artist rendition of some of the vehicles that they'll have at SEMA will look like. There's also talk of Friday being open to the public at SEMA. I have no idea what that looks like.
Chaos.
That is weird. I mean, in this environment that where you're trying to actually make it happen in such a way that people are now. Have they built that? Remember, there was a new conference center across the way. Has that been built?
That is. Yep.
So is that part of SEMA this year?
I'm guessing so. I mean, last year they had the makeshift big huge tent that had the overland side of things off the off-road hall, or 2 years ago, sorry. Maybe that's what they'll roll it into. I have no idea. I mean, there's still talk of, from a health perspective, of course, masks will be required inside. And then there's Apex, which is kind of the manufacturer's manufacturer behind on the other side of SEMA. They're actually requiring people be vaccinated or proof of a negative test to go to Apex.
Mm-hmm.
So, really?
Yeah, it's
well, that is all like the Asian manufacturers and Chinese manufacturers. So you should be all like health matted up, like hazmat suits.
Right. Yeah, big suits.
Yeah, because you never know. Because
take your vitamin C and vitamins and
just walk in there and say, "You don't live near Wuhan, do you? You don't live near Wuhan, do you?" That's wrong. That's bad.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting this year, and of course, then after that, and I just put up a couple of articles in social media sharing some of our old Death Valley stuff from the past. We still have a couple. I think we have 2 spots and 2 spots. 2 in the first and 2 in the second, or something like that. where if you want to go to Death Valley with your Jeep and come spend some time with us, you better get on it, because we're gonna have to do some planning and whatnot. And we've only got 1, 2, 3. It's about 3.5 weeks to the first trip.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, if you want to go to Death Valley, now's your chance. ModernJeeperAdventures.com.
Absolutely, and definitely sign up for those, because it's going to be an epic trip. I am planning on going. It all depends on my foot, if I can drive or not. If I can't, then I won't. But if I can, I will.
Cool.
Because
Cool.
my Gladiator, which is now being rebranded all ARS, so my Gladiator will be the ARS Gladiator. We have an ARS JK here, and we have an ARS JL, and then because we already have carbon Metalcloak like Gladiator and a couple Metalcloak JLs and JKs and all that stuff. So so it'll be fun to get out there and
Absolutely
stomp around with you. So guys, definitely check that out. In fact, I'm kind of looking on the site right now, ModernJeeper.com. Some great stories up there. Mopar gets ready for SEMA, Jeep, the Rebel Rally, and electrification. So, Jesse, when are you going to do the Rebel Rally?
When?
Yeah.
I need some moolah.
I
need about $20,000.
So you just got to hook up with some,
Yeah.
So here's the thing. You got to find yourself a sugar mama who's got a lot of money but not a lot of skill, and needs somebody with a lot of skill but not a lot of money.
Right.
I don't know about that.
If
I'm going, I want to win.
I know, but I'm saying you got all the skill.
I'm that competition side of me.
If you notice all the entrants into the Rebel, it's manufacturers. It's Bronco providing vehicles. It's Mitsubishi providing vehicles. Jeep providing vehicles.
Lexus, Kia, Toyota, all of them.
Well, and how cool is that? Because I remember when this thing was just like a little idea,
right?
Several years ago. Kind of like, it's kind of cool. That'd be a fun little thing. But it's evolved to be such a thing now. It's so impressive. Incredibly impressive.
I think actually. Ricky, our friend at Jeepers Den, was looking into putting his wife and Jesse in one of his rigs. And then I remember some email chains about, wait a minute, is the entry fee like $8,000?
No, it's 10.
Oh, $10,000.
Oh,
I'm like, yeah.
Then all the equipment and everything you need is another 10, and fuel and all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
$10,000
entry fee.
Well, you set it up that way, and people come because it's a different environment, right?
People pay it.
People got to pay it, and then now they're not going to have any yahoos.
Right? Well, Alicia is out there listening. We need to still do it, but she just had a baby almost 2 months ago, so that's why we didn't visit that situation anymore for a minute.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. Yeah, definitely. We can get some big manufacturer support. It's one of the reasons why I know that we got reached out to by a couple of different groups and stuff. But they need the money, they need the cash, they need that kind of support, and that's just not where we're at. But
set me up with one of the Metalcloak Jeeps and send me on my way.
You got your badass Jeep is like awesome. It's like especially with that grill. That's a winner right there.
It'd be fun living out of 2 people living out of it, but
I know, isn't that crazy? Like doing that, like just completely living out of a rig for a while, doing that. How many days
4
is
days,
the rally?
5 days?
No, they have base camps. And
they do, but you
get gourmet meals.
Well, you still have to build your own tent and things. They provide the food and all that.
It's
gourmet,
like Death Valley
gourmet meals.
Yeah. That's right.
Gourmet. Man. So we got that. Oh, and we've got Skillz Day this Saturday.
Oh, that's right.
Which is like just, so we're in the midst of getting everything planned and ordering food. It's like I just ordered like food for 230 people.
Nice.
Sodas and drinks and waters for 230 people, and then some, and volunteers, and all the planning for that. So it's pretty awesome to be able to get out there and do that again, because it's been, October 2019 would have been the last one.
2 years.
Year and a half, almost 2 years. And just get out there and do that again. Just been like, it's phenomenal. It's exciting.
The Ultra 4 Nationals is this weekend in Davis, Oklahoma.
Oh, is it?
Ranch.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I forget about Ultra 4. I don't pay
I
much
know.
attention.
I see a post every once in a while.
It's been kind of on the
yeah.
DL, I guess, this year. But
They-
they're going to
they've
be
been
out
doing a
there.
lot
They've
of
cut new
interesting stuff.
trails. They've cut new hard stuff into the
Wow.
park, and
Wow,
I have lots of friends that are always, look what we did. Yeah. Okay.
that's cool. Hey,
Are you
I'm
coming?
glad that people are getting out there and having fun, and doing stuff. And I think is JT Taylor. JT Taylor? Is he doing something? What is he doing on his own? Like, have you heard?
He created another basically race series.
Yeah.
He was part of Trail Hero, I guess, and it's going to be good stuff. I'm not real sure a lot of the details and whatnot. I'll have to reach out and see if I can get a hold of him. He'd be a good one. We should have him on the podcast.
Because I think I missed a call from him like a week or two ago, and sometimes I'm bad about that, guys. You reach out to me and I don't get back to you right away, and I apologize because it's a whirlwind. It's a whirlwind. I literally need a reminder to pop up, and I actually have a system right now in email where it pops up and says, "Oh, 3 days ago you said you get back to this guy. Remember, you're supposed to get back to him." Like, it just reminds you. It's that assistant, who hits you in the side of the head and goes, "Yeah, you're supposed to leave here in 5 minutes for your appointment. Go home and get your son," or something. And so just kind of, I get on and I have to stop and go back and go, "Oh yeah, great." So I need to reach back to him. But
yeah, definitely. I'd be curious to see what future plans are and that kind of thing. I don't know a lot of the details. I've just seen some snippets of stuff. So
nice. So anything other special, amazing things happening? Because you're going from SEMA directly to Death Valley. Like, you guys are you're going hump and bump, SEMA, Death Valley, and then 2 trips back to back, and then from there back home for recovery.
Yeah, and then we're working on getting ready for next year and the CTI trailer and all of its nuances and challenges, and putting together next year's schedule. So yeah, again, if you've got big events coming up, we've had a lot of requests for this. I don't even want to talk about the RTI trailer versus the CTI trailer again. But
let's put it away. If you call it an RTI trailer, you're out.
You're out. Yeah. I'm not even going to answer you anymore.
If you don't know what it is, you're out.
Yeah, but you're a big follower of Metalcloak, but you think we have an RTI trailer? Well, we don't.
We don't.
Anyways.
And then I'll be going back to Oklahoma and doing a music video shoot in my Jeep at Disney.
With Jeremy Rowe, our friend from
right.
Yeah.
Wow.
He invited me to come out and take some more videos, so we'll have my Jeep in it.
That's cool. That's cool. That'd be fun. Disney, Oklahoma. Nice.
We just
how's he doing? Is he getting traction? Is he doing good?
So.
He's working really hard. So
nice. It's amazing what is now, like you talked about NFTs. There's actually a whole new music platform that is being developed, or maybe it's already out, but that it bases the music on this destructured system, right? So you don't have to have it. So it's all based on the NFTs and the blockchains and all of that. So better distribution, easier long-term payment to the artist, and rewarding to the artist, because it's all destructured, right? And I think it's going to be cool. This whole Web3, I guess they're calling it Web3, right? It's a totally different world.
It's a totally different world. I feel like it's the world of the 15-year-old, because they'll understand it far more than I ever will.
Oh, remember back in the 90s when we were talking about video conferencing, cell phones,
right?
Base phones, and that's like, where'd that?
Well, and that's why your 15-year-olds and your 16-year-olds, there's kids out there that are like on it, that are making $80,000 a month because they're just hop onto this DeFi, because it doesn't matter who you are.
Right.
You're smart. You think about it. You create some NFTs. You get out there. You market it. You promote it. You play the game, or whether that, or you're playing with the market, or buying Shiba Inu, right? Shiba Inu, which is a crypto that popped up. It's been out there for a little while. It's at like 0.0000, like 6 zeros or 7, which I don't even know how many. I don't even know how you just pronounce that. Not my shtick, but Now it's gone up. Like if you would have put $10 into Shiba Inu in January 1st, you'd have like $1 million now. It's something stupid like that, right? And that's what these kids are doing. They understand it. They're playing the game. And that's why they're like, I'm not going to go work in a standard job. Why should I play that game? Why should I do that crap? I'm just going to invest here. I'm going to spend a little bit of money there. I'm going to put some NFTs out there, make some money there. And it's a self-supporting group. It's a little different too, because, we always compete, right? We're competing, right? They don't. They're there to like support each other and make everybody make a bunch of money. And so they support each other, they buy each other the stuff, they get it out there, people make a bunch of money, and then they're happy. And they're not going to be in the workforce. And on the one hand, that's probably a good thing. But on the other hand, it's like it's a different world. Anyway,
a thought. Isn't there a fixed amount of money available?
No. No, as long as you have a printing press.
Right. I mean, it's kind of interesting because if there's just a fixed amount of money available, and then certain people make $1 bazillion, they just get that little section of money over towards their side of the table, and then everybody else has less money now because that person has so much of it. So if we keep doing that, and then the wealthy, this is the wealthy game, right? They just keep collecting all the money, and then the people without it just keep getting less. Weird.
It is an interesting thing. There's always this idea of winners and losers, right? And if somebody's winning in a stock market, somebody has to lose in the stock market, and somebody, right? But so you can't always have, if everybody was succeeding more than 50% of the time, we'd have a problem.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. If everybody went to a casino in Vegas and won, well, then the casino wouldn't exist, and everybody gets fired, and so we can't have that.
Right. But the thing is, we're in these extremes now, where a 19-year-old or an 18-year-old or 15-year-old can make $1 million in a year, while you drive down Sacramento Street and over on the side there's Tent City, right? They don't even have good tents. I mean, it's just like the homeless. So you have the extreme. But most of those guys, most of them, they could be our age. They're older. They're not new generation. Like they have their issues. They have drugs and all that kind of stuff. But they're also dealing with a world where they can't succeed in it.
Right. Well, they didn't buy a Jeep early on.
Right.
Yeah.
And they don't have a van.
Damn it.
Don't they understand? Somebody needs to go up there and just set them up with a van life.
Van life.
Everybody's doing it. Why not?
Right.
If everybody's doing it. That's right. Well,
you have a meeting to go to.
I do. I need to head off to that. Well, my friends and all the Modern Jeepers out there, we appreciate you joining us. You know how to reach us. Matt's at Metalcloak.com, Corey at Metalcloak.com, Jesse at Metalcloak.com. Check us out at ModernJeeperAdventures.com. We have the one last event of this year, and then we will start popping up stuff for 2022. ModernJeeper.com. Check out our stories. ModernJeeperForum.com if you have questions and want to share and learn about other things. And, of course, make sure you smash that like button, the follow buttons, and share your comments on your favorite podcast player. We like to check it out.
Oh, we should have a code word.
Ding, 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 ding. Thanks, Jesse. Winner, chicken dinner.
Right?
What is our code word of the week?
What is our code word going to be? How about, I don't know.
How about electricity?
Electricity. How about
amp or troubleshooting?
I got one. Okay.
He's got it.
We're gonna throw this out there because we were talking about Death Valley, and this week's code word is going to be rhyolite.
Rhyolite.
And
I like
spell
it.
it right too.
I like it.
RHYOLITE.
And I will tell you, and then someday I'll tell you why rhyolite and the island makes so much sense. And until then.
Till then.
All right. Well, my friends, you got it there, and you did it. Now, if you don't know what that keyword's about, go check out our other podcasts because it's all about $5,000 or more dollars.
That's right.
And I think it'll be good times. Well, Thanks again, my friends. Thanks for joining us. Corey, Jesse, good to see you guys. And we will see you on the trails.
Cheers.
See ya.